This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Welcome back to another edition of AuthorU, your guide to book publishing, where we always provide a variety of strategies, insights, and tips for newbie authors, for established authors, and for anyone really interested in beginning on the publishing journey and becoming a seriously successful author. I'm Judith Briles. I'm your book shepherd, and with me we have a special show. With me is Danielle Hampson, and Danielle is another voice out here in podcast land. Danielle is the visionary, the founder, the host, and the driver behind the Author Show. And that we just met not too long ago. She does a variety of things, and I was delighted to have her as a guest in my home. And we both said, we both need to do a podcast with each other. So it's my turn. And Danielle's with me today, and we're really going to talk about podcasting, actually. And we're going to talk about strategies to market your recordings once you've got them, but also just all the elements of what brings a successful author to become the author they didn't know that they could be. So with that, Danielle, how would you like to add on some other goodies about you to our audience?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Judith, for having me. It's such a thrill to be with you today. And indeed, we met not that long ago at your house at an author party, an author barbecue party. And a lot of fun, by the way, a lot of great authors to meet at the same time. I met also a few people who are on your academy, no, your faculty, rather, I should say. So It was really a thrill. And as you said, I am the founder of the Author Show, and something that I created when people did not know, including myself, by the way, people really did not know what podcasting was all about. I started the Author Show basically by accident in 2005. Initially, at the tail end of 2004, I was asked to be a guest on a online radio show. It was not even called podcast at the time. No. And that was live, and to talk about networking, because I actually had written a small booklet on networking. I had an organization at the time called the Art of Networking. And I fell in love with a microphone. And then from that, I was asked to someone who heard me on that particular show asked me to be a host on a convention on terrestrial radio. So I renamed then the show from the networking show to the business talk show. That followed, and I'm getting to the Author Show because that followed by me being heard during drive time. I had that show. And a person who was a veteran, a 25-plus year veteran in a television broadcasting network, I had the vision of developing web TV. And when he asked me about it, I said, what is web TV? And he needed content. So I knew that I had written a small book and I wanted to promote that, but I felt more comfortable promoting other authors. So I started a show called Arizona Authors. And that was a video show at the time. And fast forwarding, it became eventually the Author Show because authors spoke. You know how authors are. It's word of mouth a lot with them. And they spoke to other authors who told them about what I was doing. And very quickly, I got authors from all over the West Coast. And I renamed then the show from Arizona Authors to the Author Show. That was the very beginning of that. And that was back in 2005.
Wow. Well, and you're right. Podcasting wasn't around, not that phrase anyway.
Right.
Certainly radio. I also hosted a regular radio show for a couple of years, and And radio, I think of all the interviews I've done, and I've done over 1,000 of them, radio has always been my favorite because there's usually more time. You don't have that 2 or 3 minute segment which
Right.
disappears instantly. And I think a lot of authors just don't realize how fast a 3 minute segment is, but also you can get a lot of information in if you are focused. So
I think radio is to me. I agree with you, and I think it's the greatest medium.
yeah, it's my favorite. And of course, with all the new cars and everything today, you
Yeah.
know that you can bring a podcast right into the car, which is awesome. Yeah.
Technology has tremendously evolved since I first started. You know, when I started 14 years ago, all of that stuff was not available, but it is now. And you're absolutely right. All of the new cars coming out now with internet access in the radio. So being a guest on a podcast is a great tool to add and to any marketing bag for authors. They need to do this. There's no ifs and buts about that.
Yeah, and it can be fun. All right, so basically, dear listeners, you have two old pros here with you today that have been around for a while. So why don't we just jump right into it? Why should authors reach out to be a guest on a podcast? And maybe, Danielle, since you do have a regular show that features authors, we might as well, let's get a plug in for the AuthorShow.com for everyone to reach out for a submission of some sort to be considered.
Well,
yeah, so jump into that a little bit.
Yeah, well, the AuthorShow.com, thank you very much for the plug. And here's one of the reasons why I do like audio, call it radio. Speaking creates an emotional connection between people. And being interviewed adds credibility. It really promotes the person as an expert in his or her field. So, and the audio component, I actually favor audio over video. One reason is because with audio, you can take it anywhere. You can listen to a podcast while jogging, while cooking, while driving, but you cannot watch a video. At least you should not watch a video while driving. So a podcast interview, in addition to the practicality of it, another podcast interview can also serve as a sample for other media outlets, like the big boys out there, the big terrestrial radio programs who are looking for guests. I'm talking about, you know, whether it's CNN, Fox, CBS, etc. I'll give you an example, if I may, for a second. I had one time, a long time ago, a particular author from Florida. His name was Jeff Knott, and he had written a book called Navigating the Healthcare Maze. And he did a interview on my show, on the Author Show. And following that, because of course we promoted that interview for him as well, and he did also a lot of promotion of it. Well, that led him on a television segment on Fox News, for which I coached him. And following that, he actually got a 3-month Fox contributor gig. Now, that alone gave him a ton of book sale. So media, audio and video, but especially audio, can lead to a lot of great things. I had another author. Her name was Tracy Hall. She happens to also be coincidentally in Florida. And she had written a book called Adoption is Forever. And she had done the video interview on the web TV, as I called it earlier, on my show. And I had a green screen studio at the time. That led to a segment on Fox and Friends. So see, there are people, the professionals, the big professional people, CNN, Fox, CBS, etc., NBC, they are constantly looking for guests. But they also want to look for guests who are able to talk about what it is that they do, about their books especially. And so an audio podcast is a great tool to do that. And again, it does for the readers, it does create that emotional connection between people, between the reader and the book writer, because the author has an opportunity to not only talk about himself or herself, but also, of course, about the content of the book and why they wrote the book, and to drive that emotion to the reader, because people buy from an emotional standpoint. They don't buy
always.
They always do.
That's always. All right. So let me just do an add-on here. So all of you who are listening in, Danielle gave a super hot tip. Oh, she didn't call the tip. I'm going to identify it as the tip, because whether you had just an audio vision or you have an audio with video, either or both, okay? Or we need to both in here. That you must have, I'm always appalled, Danielle, when people say, well, I don't have a website. And I'm going, oh, for God's sakes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have a website. You're going to have a media page on your website. When you are interviewed by anyone, you're going to get the link to it. You're going to put up, get a photo, get either or the image of the show.
Right.
And you're going to put it up on your page with the link, and you're going to put after it, parens, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. On the author show, they're usually in the 15-minute area. Now, and if you have a segment on a TV, I know when I did Good Morning America, it was 6 minutes or something like that. When I did the Joan Rivers show, which we're going back a long time ago, we did 3 whole segments. That's a huge amount of TV time, everyone. That's huge amount. That you let them know. So if they're looking for you, or they've discovered you, and they go to your media page, they have an opportunity to peruse it and to do a spot check on your dynamics, your voice, your emotion, your visuals, and all that. And then the other side of it is this, the second tip, and we're going to go to our first break here. The second tip is that you're going to take this segment, this link, and you're going to turn it into a social media blitz, and you're going to get it all over, and you're going to find, so do you want to be on CNN? Do you want to be on Fox? Do you want to be on blank, 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 blank? You're going to find out their handle, and you're using this on Twitter, Focus Twitter, and you're going to do a push out, and you include their handles @CNN, which is their handle, and you never know what producer might see that, and voila, you could get a call. So this is really important to understand, this marketing side, this positioning, starting with your website. You've got to have a spot to land it on, and then you can do it and link out and throw it around. I'm going to tell you, it's gold. How few authors do it blows me away. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual AuthorU extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. AuthorU is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover AuthorU, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join AuthorU today at AuthorU.org.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them and from someone who knows publishing inside and out from both the traditional and independent sides, how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. Sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Welcome back once again. This is Judith Briles, and with me is Danielle Hampson, who is the Chief Visionary Officer and the voice of the Author Show. And we're really talking about what you can do with a podcast, and really, what can you do with any media that you pick up. So as we went to the first break, both Danielle and I strongly feel you got to have a website, people, all of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there is no exception. It is your global business card, period. You need a media tab on your website, and you're going to start adding things to it, including your picture. You're going to create some questions that the media could ask you about what your expertise, the topic of your book is about. And my belief always is you don't have to answer them, just throw the questions out. But here's a little tip. But in parens or brackets, however you want to do it, I'd like to suggest you put how many seconds it takes you to respond to that question. Because if the host is going to the bottom or the top of the hour of the show, they may have a little segue that they can grab a question real quick and answer you and know that they can get out in time to flow into the commercial break. Just, someone who's been on the air for a long time. The second thing that we talked about is it's really important, and I think we're going to lead more into this, is that you're going to market these shows that you do, whether they're audio, which I love Danielle's tip, is the best thing about audio versus video is that you can take audio anywhere. You can take audio, and although people can, they could stream, I guess, if they're looking on their mobile and it's attached to it, but sometimes it gets more complicated with that. Audio is easy peasy. So you've got that link of your show, and then my suggestion is you're going to market it. You're going to take that link, you're going to make tweets and things, and I want you to get the handles of media that you would just love to be on. All you have to do is go in, for example, if today is your sweet spot, put in what's the Twitter handle in Google, go to the Google, and put in what's the Twitter handle for today TV show. And by God, you're going to get something. So you're going to start using some of these techniques to move on. Danielle has a whole bunch more on her list. So Danielle, I'm going to throw it back to you. What else do you suggest for marketing here?
Well, here's another reason why you need to do an interview on a podcast and absolutely post it on your website. Just let me give you just a couple of figures just to illustrate my point. Back in 2006, now that's 13 years ago, only 11% of the U.S. population over 12 years of age was even aware of podcasting. Now, in 2018, so 12 years later, 44% of that same population had listened to podcasts, and it is now estimated that in 2019, we will actually reach 51%. People, that's 144 million people. And those numbers are going to continue to move up as technology continues to improve, and more, as we mentioned earlier, more and more cars are also equipped with internet access. So that's going to even increase that numbers. Everybody's going to be listening to podcasts. And another reason I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why you want to do a podcast and you want to have that interview posted on your website is because it can also lead other hosts from the major broadcasting network to look for you and to sample you. But here's another reason. Publishers, what author does not want to be picked up by a publisher or an agent? Most authors would tell you, I want to do this, even if it's by an independent publishing house. Having that interview on your website, that also may inspire publishers and agents to take you on as a client, because the old traditional way of publishing, where the big houses were doing all the marketing for you, that no longer happens. Publishers as well as agents want to make sure that their clients are just as proactive as they are about their work. It's just that simple.
Yeah, Daniel, it's stunning to me when I throw that same line out, that you are the marketer, that publishers don't do the market. They do it for the very big boys and girls. But otherwise, the mainstream, the backlist, the mid list, you're all on your own. In fact, I've had some publishers tell me that if we pay any advance, we expect you to take that entire advance and you hire someone to help you market.
Right.
That's what their expectation is. It's not for your fabulous writing talents, dear listener. It's not. It's for your ability to get in front of people and hook them to buy the book. So that's really what you have to go. Well, I love the idea that this year, possibly 144 million, basically, the teens and up are listening to podcasts. And they're bringing them into schools now too. By the way,
yes, they are. They're bringing them everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. So it's should you start your own podcast show? That's one thing. But what we're talking about here is really, positioning yourself. This is part of your marketing portfolio of where do you, of getting out there, and whether you're marketing to sell your book, whether you're marketing to build your influence as an expert in certain areas, one never knows. But that's really what you're after.
It is both, in my view, both public speaking and interviews are a must author marketing tool. Both of those tasks. And may I address the challenge for a second? Because a lot of authors will say, well, I'm a little bit scared of doing this. Many authors are indeed reluctant to speak about themselves and their work. One reason is because in early age, we are told not to brag about ourselves and what we do, especially women, by the way. And the second reason is because writing really is a lonesome activity. It really does not promote speaking skills. And I know and I relate to that because I walked that same road of fear because of my accent. I did not want to speak to people, let alone public speaking or hosting a show for that matter. But I learned to overcome that. And because I'm very well aware of that fear and that reluctance, that's one of the reasons why in my case on the Author Show, we actually edit those interviews to remove all the mistakes that both the author as well as the host can make, and remove all the ums and the ahs and the mispronunciation and that kind of stuff, so that my job is to make the author sound rather like $1 million, like a professional public speaker, and that can be done.
Yes, it can. It's amazing what cutting and pasting can do, physically and verbally. It is truly amazing what you can do. But I think that I don't mind a few hiccups. We all have them on that. But that you do want to have it's a portfolio.
It is a portfolio. It has to be added to your website again. But here's the one thing, that with the proliferation nowadays of podcasts available out there, a lot of authors who are not afraid of being interviewed on a podcast, they run to the very first podcast that they find by Googling. And you have to be very careful about that. There are a lot of quality podcasts out there, but there are a lot of them who are not high quality. And that really can have a reflection on you. The production quality and the quality of the host, those things are very, very important. And also, you got to pay attention to the podcast's main topic. If your book, for example, is historical fiction, well, a podcast dedicated to, let's say, the latest Hollywood trend of The Bachelorette, for example, well, that's not going to be a good platform to reach your actual target audience. Now, conversely, if you write about true crime, being interviewed on the My Favorite Murder podcast, which is a weekly true crime comedy podcast, that would be, on the other hand, a very good option. So you want to pay attention to the podcast that you decide to do the interview with.
Well, let's open up this story. So let's say our listeners are thinking, okay, I'm going to jump over. I'm going to go through the hurdle. I'm going to remove the barriers I've been putting out there. How do I find the right podcast? So what are your tips?
Google is our friend, so everything's going to start with Google. You got to do a lot of research on what podcasts are out there. I'm going to go back to the example of historical fiction. First of all, I would Google historical fiction podcast, and that's going to bring some podcast title for you. You do know there are so many podcasts. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of podcasts are out there right now, but there are several hundred thousands right now, just on iTunes alone, and everybody goes on iTunes. So you have to know the title of the podcast, and there's the gamut in terms of titles. But start by Googling your book genre and see if there's a podcast associated to that. And I would start with iTunes as well, but do Google and do iTunes. And then try to contact the people who are the host or the production arm of that particular podcast to see if you can be a guest on their show. And again, having already maybe an interview already archived on your website. Now, that's going to help you as well, because that's going to give that production team an inclination as to whether you're going to be a good speaker or not.
Exactly. I have to share, I know we're coming up to our next break. I can't tell. I'll tell the story when I come back, how I became a almost daily regular doing a news break on CNBC. So just by reaching out. We'll be right back. It's AuthorU, Your Guide to Book Publishing. I'm Judith Briles.
This is Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, we're halfway through. It's going fast. I think it's halfway through. Sometimes, I get so wrapped up in my conversations, I forget where we are. I don't know if you've ever had that situation, Danielle.
Every day.
Yeah, every day.
But I believe if my math is correct, we are on segment number 3. So indeed, we are past the halfway mark. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just shot a thing to my producer. This is segment 3, and he said yes. Okay. So with that said, we are really talking about marketing. Really, marketing. For all of you listening in, whether you are just thinking about a book, you're starting on this journey, or you've already got one out and it's really going great, or maybe it's limping along a little bit. Here's the harsh reality that when you think about publishing and authoring, it's an iceberg. 10% of what you're doing is really the writing and getting this baby out. 90% is all underneath, and it's this marketing side.
That's right.
And what we're talking about, using podcasts in a variety of different ways and other types of media also. It doesn't have to be the exclusive, but a lot of authors are leaving this on the table because they're just not sure where to go. So as Daniel said, go to the Google, put your genre in. And I would put in best podcasts for mystery thrillers. See what you get. And then you keep going down. So whatever's going to come up, if it has mystery in it, it'll come up in that area. And then you just, go to their website, do a reach out, pitch yourself. But you want to bring it back and having some things on there, on your website, in that media tab, which has live sample of your voice that shows that magic element, which calls emotion. That you can tell a story, you can describe something, you can engage an audience, with the verbal gift of that. Now, if you've been on TV, you want to certainly have some segments there and share that. If you've been in print, you want to have that. I was debating, Danielle, I had a 4-page spread in People magazine many years ago. And that, it's I don't know if they even did PDFs back then. I don't know. But you know what? We can scan it and put it in. And even though it's agent, it's People magazine. And I think that you do want it when you can pull down some recognition, whether it's the local village voice. And by the way, all of you should start with your local papers and your local area to try to see if you can get some traction there. And then if you build up into a national presence, you want to bring over some of those things and share that. Because if you're going for the big stuff, well, if you're going for any media, if you can show that you've been out there, that's what they want to see. That means that you're not green.
And let's stick with that out there word that you just mentioned, because we've talked a lot about convincing authors that they need to do interviews. Let's now go to the point of what the heck do we do with them once we got them done? So that goes to posting. I've already mentioned you absolutely have to post that on your website. And you talked about a media page. That's a very good place to post it. Now, we all know the real estate adage, location, location, location. Well, in marketing, it's exposure, exposure, exposure. The more, the better. And exposure is really key to get on a podcast that is very proactive in marketing its podcast. So you also want to, there are several things you want to do about posting a podcast. Again, number one, I repeat myself, post it on your website. But that's not enough. You also want to make sure that your interview gets a lot of exposure through social media marketing. At the Author Show, we do over 200 postings a week to platforms, for example, like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And our posting can reach, the reach of a posting, it can exceed over 750,000 accounts. And many of those, by the way, are also shared. Now, in terms of the podcasting platform where you want to post them, we do post selective interviews on extremely large platforms in addition to our own show. And those are the places also where you want to be. I'll give you some example. Spotify is one of them. iTunes is a great one to start with because it is free. AuthorU-Your is another big one. All of the AuthorU-Your is on all of the new cars coming out nowadays. SoundCloud, Spreaker, and there are many, many more. Now, some of them you have to pay a fee to get on those, but a lot of them are also free. So again, do some research. Google podcasting platforms and see what comes up, and you will see, or actually, even if you go to theauthorshow.com, you will see we actually have a banner that shows a whole bunch of those platforms where we specifically post some of our own interviews. So that will give you a good start. And those platforms instantly add many hundreds of thousands of potential listeners in addition to our own or your own on your own website. So that's a good place to start as well.
I think that's a great idea. I know that we're on this show, which is airs that we're doing is on the TogiNet network, and then iTunes, of course, but it's also on iHeart, and there's like 7 of them that they're out there that you automatically. So I've got some numbers for us. There are 700,000 active podcasts.
There you go.
Right now. And by the way, for all of you listening, how does that multiply out? Well, when you do you include all them, what they've got in their inventory and what they show out, there's over 29 million podcast episodes. Yeah. That's a wowza.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, a good interview, posting a good interview also gives another exposure opportunity. It gives you the opportunity to be heard speaking about yourself and about your work 24/7 in all time zones around the world. So that means that people can find out about you, about your book, even when you sleep or when you go shopping.
You know, and you are so right on. I do a Friday coaching call. I do a live coaching session at 7 a.m. my time in the morning every Friday, rain or shine, or snow or sleet or whatever, hot as heck. But we do it at 7 in the morning. Some people show up in their robes. One person who found me by the podcast, by the way, is in Israel, who's joined my coaching deal. And I know that once in a while I will do a live Ask Judith Anything webinar, and I will push that out. And I've had people call me from Russia, from Uganda, that can come in because they can come in that way and they can post questions. So, the bottom line is for all of you, you never know. You never know. But you're never going to know unless you get out there.
That's right. You got to try.
That's the bottom line. Yeah.
Yeah. And we got all authors, in the 14 years I've been doing the author show, we've had a lot of people ask me sometimes, well, do you do authors outside of the United States? Of course we do authors outside of the United States. Thank God for the internet, because that enables us to interview anybody from anywhere around the planet. I think the only country that we haven't touched yet is China, for obvious reasons. I don't speak Chinese.
That's right. Well, they do have a couple of versions of Chinese. But,
yes, they do. And I've been to China many times.
Yeah, but a lot of Chinese speak English.
Yes,
so,
they do. They do.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
No.
Yeah. But the bottom line, it's a marketing game. Publishing is a marketing game. Publishing is a business. Both Danielle and I are right on parallel tracks there. It's a business, and your book, your expertise is a product. You got to market your product. It's that simple, everyone. It's that simple for you.
And when from a publishing a book standpoint or writing a book standpoint, I personally, that's just my personal passion. I prefer nonfiction books over fiction. Anyway, that's just me. But the nonfiction, the business people have such an opportunity to really generate revenue for themselves for their regular business aspect by just writing a book about what it is that they do and about how that can touch people, whatever the field that they are involved. Writing a book, I constantly tell people in business, you need to write a book, because that's going to help promote your own business in many, many ways. And then, as you said, you experience that yourself. It opens up the field of public speaking, and you can generate a lot of revenue through public speaking. And if you have a nonfiction book on a specific topic that's of interest to the business community, the conferences, whatever, you got it made.
It's the number one way to sell books. So everyone, okay, I'm going to plug my book. If you haven't got a copy of How to Create $1 Million Speech, you are missing the boat. I actually laid out how I set up my career that really led to $5 million in combined speaking and book sales. And step by step, I take you through it.
Yeah, and I have read your book. I have not completely finished it yet. I'm actually in the last quarter of the book, but it's very well put together. It's really easy to read. It's just plain factual information, and it's just something that everybody needs. If you are an author, you want to promote yourself as a speaking person, you absolutely need to read the book. And I'm not just plugging a book here. I do mean that very sincerely, because I have read the book.
Yeah, it's good. And if any of you have the book and you haven't contacted me, if you'll email me at judith@browse.com, I will send you the Word document of the contract in Chapter 14 that you can modify and make your own. All right, and with that, we're going to take now our final break. This is the final break coming up.
Number 4.
Segment 4 is coming. With me is Danielle Hampson. She is the Chief Visionary Officer and the voice of the AuthorShow.com.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With 700 million podcasts, there is certainly podcasts out there that would be delighted to have you as a guest. So you just have to do the work, let Google do your walking, and see what's out there and you can find. With me is Danielle Hampson. She is the host of the AuthorShow.com, and I encourage all of you to take a peek at the website. And she and I, through the years, I know that we're in the multi-thousands, Danielle, have interviewed, interacted, and come away with a lot of tips of things to do as well as not to do. So in our last segment, why don't we kiss on some of the common mistakes, and maybe not so common, that authors can continue to embrace, and how can we get them out of it?
Well, yeah, as you said, I've been doing this for a while, 14 years in the making, and within the past 13 years, we have processed over 5,000 authors, and if you do the math, that's basically one author every single day of the week. So yes, there are a few tips that I need to pass on, because some of the mistakes that authors make are really not good. I mean, you can learn from the mistake, and I'm like you, Judith, I'm a big believer in learning from our mistakes, but there are certain things you really want to avoid. And here's the first one, and to me, it's a very important one: not following the very specific protocol of the show. If you do not follow that protocol, that whatever show, and every show is different, but if you do not follow their protocol, you absolutely lessen your chances to be accepted as a guest. If you make it difficult for the production team to know about you, they do not have the time. There are many, many guest opportunities that they have to go through. And if you do not make it easy for them to search you, we research every single author that we put on the show. It goes through 3 layers of research: myself, my assistant Nancy, and then if I'm not conducting the interview, one of my other hosts. So it's very important to follow the protocol and make it very easy to find out about you and about your work. That's number one.
And I'm going to add to that. And also, when you interact with these people, don't be a jerk.
Trust me, I just had one case yesterday with a person who requested an interview, and he did not submit all the information that request, not even an ISBN number, he did put the book title, but no ISBN number, no website, only a Facebook page, and he put just his name. And when I looked at Facebook about his name, there were at least 50 people with the same name. And I emailed him, and his answer was, well, your job is to make it easy for me, not to make it difficult. All I was asking was, how can we find out? How can we find out more about your book? That's what I'm trying to do to help him. You can bet that he's not going to be on the show.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just going to add, people, you should have your link to Amazon so they can take a peek of it. Yep. If there is a social media, it's certainly that. But for God's sakes, your website, you're about a short. Short, I'm talking like 2 sentences, what your book is about.
Yeah.
Come on. And phone numbers, all this stuff, please. Okay. Next,
Now,
number 2. Yeah.
Here's the number 2 mistakes: to arrive late for the interview, or worse, not even show up and not even let the host know that you're not going to show up, and then requesting another guest spot. Not going to happen if you behave that way. So you have to please respect the time of the production team and the host. Arrive on time for your interview, especially, and not just if it's recorded, but especially also if it is live. That's even more important. If it's a live show, you have to show up on time. But even if it's recorded, please show some respect for the host and the time that the production team is putting in there. So that's a big no-no also, to arrive late. And one thing that I always also tell guests on any show, again, all the tips that I'm giving are true for any show, not just mine. Mm-hmm. Do not read a script, because when you read, it shows. Have bullet points. Give yourself some talking points. Get bullet points, but do not read the script. It will show once you start reading that.
Oh, I know. That's just if you're talking about an emotional engagement, you just brought it down to zilch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you talk about emotional. Here's another one: speaking with no energy in the voice. If you do not have any energy in your voice, that again, you are trying to convey an emotion. People buy books based on emotion. They want to relate to the book that they're looking at or that they're hearing about. So you have to really speak with some energy in your voice. You have to be passionate about what it is that you are talking about. If passion is what sells, that's number one. Passion is what sells.
I'm going to write that down. Number 1, passion sales. I believe that. That's part of your platform building, everyone. It's your passion, your vision, and your commitment. It's that simple. When you've got all 3 of them, your chances for success have catapulted.
You also have to make sure, and that's true for anything, even outside of being interviewed, you have to identify precisely your book genre and category. I have a lot of authors who send me interview requests and they say it's a fiction book, but they do not put the subcategory of it. Okay, fiction what? It can be fiction romance. It can be historical fiction. It can be a children's book. You have to really identify that. What about nonfiction? Nonfiction is not enough. What is it? Again, is it a business book? Is it a financial book? Is it a wellness book? You need to identify for your own self your book genre and category. When authors do not put that information for us, again, through the research, we, of course, which is one of the reasons why we like to have the ISBN number, is, of course, we go on Amazon and we try to find the author there. But not every author is on Amazon. And if they're not on Amazon or on Goodreads, for example, it makes it very, very difficult to find, especially if they don't even put a website address as well. So we do, if they are on Amazon, we'll pick up the category that they show on Amazon. But you really need for yourself, you need to identify your book genre. If you do not know what book genre you're in, how do you expect the reader to try to look for your book? Because readers look by book genre. If a reader is in the mood for a romantic experience, they're going to look in the romance section. They're not going to look in the nonfiction. So you need to really properly identify your book genre and category. So that's another big tip.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I mean, those are key. Now, as Daniel went through these, I'm going, God, these are all no-brainers. Why don't people get this? I have to say this. I am going through having the ISBN. I mean, I would include, give us not only ISBN, so give us your Amazon link, because that will tell you a lot.
Yep.
Which is what the first thing I go to is the customer reviews. I look at the customer reviews, and I always read, here's one of my tips, I always read the 1 and 2 star reviews. What are people grumbling about? I mean, some I can quickly discern, this guy's a jerk, forget this. But this book lacks this. Well, we'll find out. But that's one of my tips.
Well, here's one more, which really is very important to me personally, and it goes especially for nonfiction writers. not explaining acronym and assuming that the listeners will know what you mean. I'll give you an example, and I use that when I do public speaking. The NSA. Most authors who also do public speaking assume that NSA means, and it does, National Speakers Association. And yes, it does. But don't assume that the listener is going to know that, because it also means National Security Agency, for example. And I'm sure there's a lot of other explanation for NSA. So do not assume that the listener is going to know what the acronym that you're using represents. So explain that. It just takes a few more seconds to say that. So explain it. And forgetting also to mention where you and your work can be found. You would be surprised, Judy. Well, no, you would not be surprised, because you do interviews yourself. Yeah. How many times an author does not say, and sometimes, that can also be the fault of the host, because the host at the end of the day has to ask that as well. They do not say where their work can be found. Because being so nervous, often authors, as I said, forget that. And even if the hosts do not do their job well, here is another missed marketing opportunity where you do not say where your work can be found. And another,
oh my gosh,
Let me throw in one last one. Saying type my name in Google or Amazon. Please do not make the listener work to find you. Make it easier to find you. If you do not make it easy for them, they're not going to do the work to find you.
Oh yeah, that's my classic. And then we have 2 minutes to go, so I want to get about maybe 90 seconds, but some really success tips. But I think it's really important to understand that one of my pet peeves is when I can't find a phone number on a business card. When I get a business card or someone, and an email or an address. I mean, don't hide yourself. I'm going to tell all of you, go to my website, thebookshepherd.com, look at my contact page. And it tells you, if you're impatient, here's my phone number. If you like snail mail, here's my address. Blah, blah, blah. Make it easy, people. All right. Let's have a couple of quick success things, and then we'll wrap up.
Don't do it all on your own. Hire help in the areas that are not your specialty. That's going to be a much better way of becoming a professional author. Have an appealing book cover and pay attention to your book title. And another way, one way to create a successful author experience is to speak, and speak. Do book signing where you can speak to your audience, do interviews where you can speak to an audience as well, and do public speaking. And those three alone are very, very helpful. Authors do sell a lot of books when they are engaged a lot in speaking, because as we said earlier on the show, it is an emotional experience. People want to hear from the author, they want to experience the author, they want to hear from their content, etc. So
and they want to take them home. And I'm just, I'll just wrap this whole segment. But speaking is the number one way to sell buku books. And here's what I love about it: they pay instantly. And the money, you don't have to wait for collections, which I love. Well, this has been a fabulous, fabulous show with Danielle Hampson, the host and the voice of the AuthorShow.com. So I would encourage all of you to get there. Thank you, Daniel, for being with me.
Well, thank you, Judith, for having me.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week, a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take you, the author, to the next level. You'll learn tips and secrets on how to create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve book publishing success by making one very simple change in your book's journey. How to avoid the publishing predators. How to create an author and book platform that rocks. Learn how to make a living with your words and your books. Learn how to publish a book that has no regrets, and so much more. For more information, check out AuthorU.org, where authors who want to be seriously successful go. And Judith's website, thebookshepherd.com. Then join us again here next week for more. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network.